All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. What's going on, y'all? Hopefully, I'm still coming to you in stereo. We are live on Rockfin, YouTube, and on Callin. Cool to see you all here. Thanks for hanging out every single day. I appreciate you. Let us jump right into it. Hello, Rockfin folks. Hello, we're here. Thanks for that link, Judy. I appreciate it. Cool. There's a lot of people live on Rockfin right now, so I saw that there's quite a few people going all at the same time, but whatever. We do our thing every single day at noon Pacific. Regardless of what else is going on. All right, let's get into it. The reason for the title of this particular broadcast. Want to read something from Kevin Hester. We haven't heard from Kevin Hester in a while. Well, not that he hasn't been saying anything. I just haven't read any of Kevin Hester's stuff lately. It's been a while since. But, you know, Kevin Hester is a man knowledgeable about the state of the planet. Lurk away, Christian. Oh, before we get started, on the screen is a good way to support the show, Cash App. There are links in the description box of all the platforms I'm on, and all these are good ways to support the channel. I appreciate you for supporting the channel. Every little bit helps. Helps to keep it going on a daily basis, honestly. All right. So from Kevin Hester, Planetary Gas Chamber, not climate change. From September 11th, a few days ago. We've been aware that burning fossil fuels would alter, destabilize, and warm the atmosphere since at least 1847. And the narrative has been controlled since shortly thereafter. Had we described the phenomenon as creating what it is, a planetary gas chamber for most, if not all, complex life on the planet, perhaps we might have acted to save the biosphere rather than perpetuate the extraction industry, which is in the acceleration process of incinerating the entire ecosystem. What an incredible irony that a Republican congressman from the USA was the first person that I'm aware of, feel free to correct me below if I'm wrong, to give a lecture on human-induced climate change. We have been through a raft of slogans. I mean, well, let me just point out in that paragraph that it doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. It doesn't matter what single solitary place you have in the spectrum of thought. People are capable of saying correct things and saying incorrect things. All people are capable of this. So not one, there's not one party that's full of liars and the other ones tell the truth. That's just not how it goes. There's not one, I say this all the time. So everybody's capable of seeing things clearly and complete blindness. Everybody, including myself. We have been through a raft of slogans that have all downplayed the reality that the unfettered incineration of fossil fuels would negatively alter the atmospheric energy and greenhouse gas balance. Greenhouse, such an innocuous term for an existential threat tailored to not scare the serfs. A near-forgotten speech made by a U.S. congressman warned of global warming. Holy moly, I got all flipped around there. Warned of global warming and the mismanagement of natural resources in 1847. Remember, Plato, hero of libertarians and many people who are anti-climate change. Plato actually spoke of way back. Plato and other philosophers and seers and thinkers and writers. Plato said, there's too many people doing too many things that's going to mess things up. Even he could see all the way back then what the long-term effects of that was going to do. I would argue his defining moment came on September 30th, 1847, when, as a congressman from the Whig Party, a forerunner of the Republican Party, he gave a lecture to the Agricultural Society of Rutland County, Vermont. Is there not a name for this person? I don't know. Kevin Hester, did you not even name this person who gave the speech all the way through this? Yeah, I don't see a name for this person. Maybe he'll name him later. I don't know what this person's name is. Hold on. Maybe we'll find it here. George Perkins Marsh was his name. Just a note to Kevin Hester, you might want to name the person that you're talking about. George Perkins Marsh. It proved to be the intellectual spark that led him to go on and publish his 1964 work, Man and Nature, Physical Geography as Modified by Human Action. To give some reference to the insanity of the current debate around greenhouse gas emissions, everyone is arguing and or lying about what degree we can destabilize the atmosphere. Think about that lunacy for a second. A cognitive dissonance is a mindfuck for me. Cognitive dissonance and outright lies at the edge of extinction. The reality is there was no safe level of destabilization of our atmosphere. It's pitifully obvious in hindsight. The next nonsensical aspect of the predicament is the debate around how much of a carbon budget we have left. The sharp scientific reality is that there's no carbon budget. Clearly, we are in early stage, nonlinear runaway, and the atmosphere has been destabilized well beyond the point of no return. Every additional gram of carbon released speeds up the already unfolding collapse, now dominated and driven by a multitude of feedback loops documented here. Climate Change Summary. In 1989, quoting Noel Brown, director of the New York office of the UN Environment Program, or UNEP, he said, governments have a 10-year window of opportunity to solve the greenhouse effect before it goes beyond human control. You'll note that the rogues at the UN are still saying the same thing 33 years later. The 1989 Associated Press article warning of the phenomenon titled UN Predicts Disaster if Global Warming Not Checked. There's been much debate about the time lag between when emissions are dumped into the atmosphere and when we feel the full effects. Warming from methane is, to all intents and purposes, effective immediately after it is vomited into the atmosphere, hence some of the shocking heat we are currently witnessing in the Northern Hemisphere. The stability of widespread methane hydrates in shallow subsurface sediments of the marine continental margins is sensitive to temperature increases experienced by upper intermediate waters. Destabilization of methane hydrates and ensuing release of methane would produce climatic feedbacks, amplifying and accelerating global warming. Hence, improved assessment of ongoing intermediate water warming is crucially important, especially that resulting from a weakening of the AMOC, or Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or Gulf Stream, or whatever you want to call it. There's no reason whatsoever that this will not be repeated as we broil the Arctic. Evidence for massive methane hydrate destabilization during the penultimate interglacial warming. Carbon, on the other hand, can take up to centuries to manifest depending on the scale of the pulse. As the northern hemisphere's forests burn huge quantities of carbon released in very short time frames. The chaos we are seeing now doesn't include the last 20 years of CO2 emissions, quite possibly much longer, as detailed in the embedded link below. Our results suggest that CO2 accumulates in the atmosphere. The full warming effect of an emission may not be felt for several decades, if not centuries. I mean, this is basically a review of, we've all seen Guy McPherson's presentations. And that's kind of where we are and what this is about. Anyways, starting the show with some of the super doomy side of things. Which is a realistic assessment of where we are and what we've been doing. All right. Let's continue. So I said that I wanted to talk about this article from End of the World Party. Talks a little bit about Bitcoin. It goes into the weeds kind of on a technical front. I'll just read a little bit of it. It's very long, but we can talk, it gives plenty of conversational, jump off points. Firstly, we'll look at this from Jordan Perry. Interesting picture from obviously a dump site. It's not a dump, it's a transfer station. We're not a domesticated invasive apex predator bent on destruction. We're the pinnacle of existence and will save the earth. Featured, energy, the delusion of endless growth, thrown in the pit and open to the perfect page. Zoom in. So this is a page opened in the dump, and it says, it's pretty amazing that our society has reached a point where the effort necessary to extract oil from the ground, ship it to a refinery, turn it into plastic or a plastic spoon or whatever, shape it appropriately, truck it to a store, buy it, and bring it home is considered to be less effort than what it takes to just wash the spoon when you're done with it. Really simple way to, lend a hand in the not destroying of the planet is to reject those plastic doodads wherever and whenever you can. Reject them. Don't use them. Do not partake. Do not let them into your house. Do not, it's very hard. I understand. I know it's difficult. Just a point of awareness. Creative Experiment says, if wages were higher, nobody would care about Bitcoin. Huh. I mean, yeah, sure. I can see that. I don't know. My interest in crypto, Bitcoin, and the like is that interestingly, it's a way to create your own currency, wealth, and anybody can do it right now for the moment. I don't know, that it may be all put to a halt because the monetary system sees these cryptos as a threat. But like so many other things, it kind of punches away the wall of illusion that, money is, controlled by the state. You can only use the legal tender, et cetera, et cetera. There are only so many, ways to amass, to get money, like work, right? That, so, when you say if wages were higher, nobody would care about Bitcoin. Well, yeah, on one level, but how about I don't care about wages. I have some Bitcoin. You can take your job and shove it, right? So how about that one? So, I don't know. How about, I don't know. Or if you have a little bit of Bitcoin, you can do whatever, you can do whatever job you feel like doing, or something. But I do agree that people should be paid for their work, and paid well, paid a living wage, should get health care. I don't know. What's your feeling on UBI? I actually like the idea of UBI, and a lot of people are like, no, that's terrible. They're going to control you and put a chip in your brain if you have UBI. I don't know. Are they? Maybe they will, but maybe, I don't know that they'll give people UBI, because then that also destroys the illusion that, like, well, in order to get the food and the house and the things that you need, you have to go do this thing and go do the job and go over here and buy the car and buy the things and buy the clothes and have the things and, right? Buy all the things so that you can get to the job and make the money and to buy all the things. It's like all that is just a game, right? So if you give people UBI, it kind of makes the game a little more meaningless, right? Creative experiments. I was on unemployment one time and qualified for free health care, and it was amazing. I actually got free dental care in the USA. Exactly my point. And they have these things in other countries, but in the USA, how are we going to pay for it? Yeah. Gene says, didn't a country do an experiment where they gave a group of people UBI and it was a really positive outcome for everyone involved? Yeah. Yes. Just like giving people houses, right? When we house the homeless, it goes really well. And everybody's like, all the bankers and all the real estate people and all the house builders and everybody, they're like, mum's the word. Mum's the word. We don't, give people UBI, they do fine. Everything's great. This is a great thing. Again, the people that need you to go out there and work for, less than a living wage and struggle and sweat and toil and, buy all the things that they're trying to sell you on the way to your job so you can make the money to buy all the things that they sell you on the way back from your job. Like, mum's the word. No. I don't know. Anyways, the reason why I think crypto is interesting is because it's like people are creating brand new ways to kind of operate, to make money or to have money or to move money around or to invest or whatever. They're creating like brand new ideas out there. And a lot of them are based on traditional monetary ideas, and some of them are based on brand new ideas. But and I also find that there are a lot of there's a lot of ideas around crypto being used to fund and or be part of like social welfare projects, aka climate change or other things. And I find those ideas interesting, and I think about. I'm often contemplating like how I mean, imagine if you could, if you have a crypto project and it's generating money, and you can put a portion of this money that the crypto project generates towards something positive. I don't know what. Regreening, rewilding a certain area, or buying a piece of land that you want to rewild, or whatever it might be. You could do that, and then you don't have to go, set up a GoFundMe or you don't have to go petition people to give you money. You don't have to go to the government and go, hey, I want you to do this thing. No, you could just go do the thing. Well, let's read about how much electricity crypto uses, because again, this is mainly a myth or mainly a scare tactic that they use in order to make people think, it's like, oh, crypto is used to fund terrorism. No, it's not. I mean, not any more than regular money is. Regular fiat money is used to fund all kinds of, illegal narcotics and weapons, and all that stuff is usually funded by regular ass money. So the idea that like, oh, crypto people like to use it, what's the difference between an anonymous crypto account and an offshore bank account in the Caymans? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's no difference whatsoever. So, this idea that crypto is bad or that uses all the energy, let's poke a couple holes in that. Oh, by the way, speaking of crypto, there's, the White House has this new White House releases first ever comprehensive framework for responsible development of digital assets. So a lot of people are very, most of this was posted on Twitter and everybody was like, no, absolutely not. So there's just an attempt to control crypto, regulate it more, and or bring CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, online, which people, roundly reject. And I'm letting you know, anybody who's out there listening who's from the, from the spy groups, roundly reject. Nobody wants these things. Everybody does not want CBDCs. So good luck with that. I know you'll try, but people are going to be like, hell no. So take that shit and put it somewhere else, but no, don't put it out in the world, because nobody's going to want to use it. Good luck with that. And also the same with crypto. People are not going to. Crypto is already there. Crypto is already out in the world. Crypto is already a thing. So you're going to try to control it or ban it or do something like that. People are going to roundly reject that and try to get around that. So good luck with that. Good luck with that. Not always, John Gladkowski. That's not true. Cryptos are Ponzi. Well, I'll tell you what. Fiat regular money, the American dollar or whatever dollar you're using, is a Ponzi scheme on many levels. But it's all about it. Everything about it is the faith that it actually is worth something. So all money is built on the faith, the fundamental faith that this means something to you or actually has some value. And it's the same thing with crypto. Crypto actually just, it has depending on who's buying and who's selling, has a certain amount of value, and that value is based on the amount of people that are engaged in trading or spending or using this currency, and it's all about faith. It's all about the belief that this thing means something. So there's no difference between crypto and fiat currency. There's absolutely no difference between crypto and fiat currency, other than fiat currency of a particular country might, it's legal tender, and it has some might have some insurance behind it. Might be federally backed in a bank, but All right. But one statement that I heard made about crypto or Bitcoin in particular is that if you, for the people that believe in gold as a store of value, there was somebody said, if you had invested in gold 10 years ago, the same amount of money in gold and in Bitcoin 10 years ago, your Bitcoin had outperformed gold by I don't know how many thousands of %, like a whole lot. You probably wouldn't have made much on the gold buy, but on the Bitcoin buy, you would have been doing really well. Joe Schmo says, will we see an end to paper money in our lifetime? Oh, a lot of people are resisting that, seeing an end to paper money. But I kind of think that's probably coming pretty soon. Okay. Central banks will give the UBI a digital currency. Yeah, spend it within a time frame. Yeah. And that's why people don't want CBDCs. Because they will be ultimately controllable by the state. All right, well, quickly. Is Bitcoin a climate threat or a key to a renewable transition? So this is written by a climate change aware person, and you may deeply disagree with, anything that they say. I'm just reading this for information. Just another point of view on the whole situation. It's okay. It's okay to take it in. It's fine. Bitcoin is terrible for the planet. Bitcoin mining is bad for the planet. Crypto is killing the planet. Bitcoin is fueling the climate crisis. Bitcoin could cost us our clean energy future. As the public and media have finally been showing some concern over the imminence of climate chaos, claims like these are being made about the impact of Bitcoin mining on carbon emissions and are almost universally taken for granted in the climate community. Several companies, including Mozilla and Discord, backtracked on plans to implement cryptocurrency in their platforms due to public backlash, misinformed public backlash. And I don't even know if that's even true. Was that just manufactured public backlash? I don't know. Largely rooted in ostensible environmental concern. Many artists and musicians have received incredible pushback from fans after releasing NFTs, an artistic asset on a cryptocurrency blockchain. I'm going to release my next album on NFT, so how about that? And I don't really care. If you're upset about it, I don't care. Some politicians have also begun joining in the opposition. The EU almost banned proof-of-work mining earlier this year over energy and climate concerns. New York State recently placed a 2-year moratorium on new Bitcoin mining in the state. A Washington County electric utility recently instituted a 29% rate increase on Bitcoin miners, and now the Biden administration is reportedly preparing policy recommendations related to the climate and energy impacts of crypto mining. Alternatively, some true cryptocurrency believers, including Block, formerly Square, are making the claim that Bitcoin is the key to solving the climate crisis and can prevent climate change. Oh, those are pretty big claims. Or that it can help at least with decarbonization, the electrification of everything, and the renewable transition. On its face, this appears absurd. More energy demand seems obviously contrary to climate goals and decarbonization. But Bitcoin mining is unique in the way it uses energy. So if we're going to take the climate crisis seriously, then we must take a sober look at the potential pitfalls of Bitcoin mining in regards to climate policy. For the most part, tools and technologies aren't inherently good or bad. Their value to society lies in how we use them. And in this time of existential crisis caused by our methods and scale of energy production, it's vital that we don't overlook or conversely overstate the value of any possible tool we have. Bitcoin mining's electricity usage being decentralized and therefore each individual mining operation being uniquely disconnected from time-sensitive end-user needs makes it a potentially valuable tool in our transition to renewable in ways that haven't yet been fully explored by much of the climate-concerned community. So what is Bitcoin? Like anthropogenic global warming, Bitcoin itself is a confusing, complex, and abstract topic to most. But to keep it short, Bitcoin is the first and most popular cryptocurrency based on code and a white paper released by an unknown person or group of people under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008. It is a blockchain, which is essentially a continuous chain of digital blocks of transactions acting on an online public ledger that is secured, added to, and continually verified by miners around the world using computing power to compete for new Bitcoins as reward. From one perspective, the mining process can be viewed as turning electricity into Bitcoin. That electricity usage, a blockchain consensus mechanism called proof of work, is where climate-concerned critics of Bitcoin take issue. There are thousands of cryptocurrencies, most of which are built on other blockchains or use other consensus mechanisms besides proof of work that don't require much electricity. Did y'all know that? I don't know. Yeah, there's something called proof of stake. And many or most of which are nothing but vaporware and scams. The second largest cryptocurrency, Ethereum, also uses proof of work. Not now, they just switched like 2 days ago. And is estimated to currently use less than half of the electricity as Bitcoin, but will most likely transition to proof of stake later this year, cutting its electricity use by over 99%. So for our purposes, we will be focusing on Bitcoin and proof of work. All right, I'm going to see how deep I get into this. It won't be super deep, guys, because this is an incredibly long article. But, you know, this is just for information's sake, if anybody doesn't know this. But we're getting to something important here. Unquestionably, the Bitcoin network uses a substantial amount of electricity. The global network uses more electricity than many countries, accounting for approximately 0.5% of all global electricity usage, which is a lot. But it is important to remember that electricity is not the same as total energy usage or relative climate impact. Electricity generation is one of the largest carbon emission sources, but it is still only the source of around 25% of total human carbon emissions. Electricity generation, 25%. So 0.5% of 25% is what Bitcoin takes up. To keep the entire subject of Bitcoin's climate impact in perspective, we are talking about 0.5% of 25% of the carbon emission problem. So approximately 0.125% of the total climate problem. Right. So is Bitcoin, you know, when you put it in that perspective, is Bitcoin like going to destroy the planet? I don't know. It's part of the problem. But it's not, you know, taken in, you know, in the whole of the context of the whole of the problem. It's in there, but, you know, how much does our regular, I wonder, probably should have looked this up, but I wonder what the entire monetary system of the United States, what kind of, you know, carbon output just the regular monetary system takes up, which is a lot. There you go, Realize. Yep. Realize says I sold 6 Bitcoin at 51,000 each. Good on you, sir. That I paid nothing for, mined it, and bought it when it was $10. Did give the guy whose garage I rented and electricity I used a nice bonus. Well, there you go. Many headlines and articles and reports have been written making a point of how much energy each Bitcoin transaction uses, and those numbers are eye-popping at first glance. According to Digiconomist, a single Bitcoin transaction uses the same amount of power that the average American household consumes in over 2 months, and around 1 million times more than a credit card transaction. But this is misleading for a few reasons. One problem with this metric is that the Bitcoin network adds blocks of transactions around every 10 minutes, no matter what, even if there are no transactions, but each block also holds an average of around 1,500 transactions. Complicating things even further is the existence of a layer 2 protocols built on top of the main Bitcoin network to allow much greater scalability and speed. The main example of this is the Lightning Network, which launched in 2018 and has been growing rapidly as a payment and low-cost transaction option supported by various popular wallets such as Strike, Paxful, and Cash App. The Lightning Network can support 1 million transactions per second, and several million transactions can fit into a single Bitcoin block. The energy per transaction issue with Bitcoin is complicated enough to be ultimately irrelevant. The best metric that tells us the most about its climate impact is the total energy usage of the network, 0.5% of global electricity usage. And it is important to keep in mind when you see stories about Bitcoin's electricity consumption surpassing that of Argentina's, the subject is electricity, not total carbon emissions. Taking a look at other large sources of greenhouse gas emissions, it becomes clear that electricity production is the easy part of reducing emissions, but one that the public, media, and politicians have tended to focus on the most. Bitcoin mining only uses electricity in the age of rapid transition to renewable electricity generation, where even the market pricing is leaning in favor of renewables. The Bitcoin mining process per se doesn't require gasoline like a car does, or fertilizer and de-wilded land like food does, or ethane like plastic does, and its creation doesn't inherently cause CO2 emissions like cement does. And it doesn't require coal or natural gas to produce the electricity. It just needs electricity in an age of rapid electrification. So we were talking about 0.5% of the easiest, 25% of the huge existential problem. With that perspective, it's easy to see that the claims that the Bitcoin is destroying our planet are hyperbolic. It's clear that not only is the ecological cost of crypto mining overstated, but it may even be doing harm by putting undue focus on such small elements of the crisis. With so little time left on the carbon clock and with everything at stake, it's vital that we not be distracted by politically convenient scapegoats. And so Bitcoin increases total electricity demand, a relatively small but not insubstantial amount. The next question is, can Bitcoin's electricity usage be leveraged to enable and hasten the renewable energy transition? This is where it gets interesting. So one way or another, it should be clear that we are in the middle of an era of rapid transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Solar and wind have grown exponentially over the past 20 years. They are now the cheapest ways to generate new electricity. The trend is clearly towards renewables and away from fossil fuels. And I'm not gonna stop here and, yes, there are problems with the renewables too. Okay, so but I'm just gonna keep going. This is for information's sake. The issue here is the speed at which we decarbonize our civilization. Despite all our progress in renewable adoption, we're still on track for a catastrophic future, and that may be an overly optimistic estimate. As global electricity demand continues to rise in the U.S., possibly rising up to 40% by 2050, due to electric vehicles and electric heating, there are renewable-specific hurdles to full renewable electricity production that have yet to be dealt with. Besides the corrupting influence of money on politics, the two biggest hurdles are the financing of new renewable projects and the problem of balancing the varying generation and demand of a 100% renewable electric grid. As the classic climate denier conundrum goes, sun doesn't always shine and wind doesn't always blow. This problem of energy variability and intermittency with wind and solar is the biggest technical hurdle renewable adoption faces, and it's a real problem, not just a fossil fuel industry talking point. It is also where Bitcoin mining may hold the most promise. Currently, electric grid operators balance energy demand and the varying generation by curtailing, i.e. wasting, energy to reduce excess supply. By bringing fossil fuel peaking plants, usually natural gas, online at times of high demand, or by using battery storage or demand response. Demand response is reducing end-use energy consumption in response to high demand and high cost. So demand response saves the consumer money. In the future, there could be widespread implementation of smart appliances that balance customer usage with the varying power generated from solar and wind. One example is in Los Angeles, where 6,000 smart thermostats were distributed in 2020 to reduce energy use at periods of peak demand. I know. The smart grid. Oh my God, this is going to be. He's telling you that there might be upsides to smart meters or smart, being able to regulate how much energy you're using at a particular time. And that actually plays into better grid usage by renewable power sources. All right, we're just going along with this, okay? We're just going along. But demand response is still very limited, only supplying around 2.7 gigawatts of power in the U.S. in 2019, and battery storage in the U.S. in 2021 only totaled 4.5 gigawatts. The ideal long-term solution is often thought to be a smart grid with battery storage paired with a robust long-distance transmission grid to balance renewable energy supply and demand. But in the U.S., expanding our transmission and delivery capability is an uphill climb between the lack of political will, NIMBYism, logistical issues, energy crisis, bureaucracy and regulation complications, increasing costs, and a lack of market incentives, it's an incredibly burdensome process that barely seems to be happening, even though it urgently needs to. Anyways, currently battery storage is marginal and expensive. Anyways, Bitcoin as a battery. Some in the Bitcoin community refer to Bitcoin as a battery, though this isn't quite accurate. You obviously can't plug a Bitcoin in and power your electric car or refrigerator with it. Bitcoin doesn't operate like a normal battery, but instead operates more like an inverse battery or financial battery. Instead of supplying energy, mining supplies demand for energy. Profitable demand that can be instantly turned on and off instead of purely wasteful curtailment of that energy. Right. As more solar and wind comes online, total curtailment increases. So you have more wasting of energy as these things come online. And some grid operators actually buy back excess energy from people that have, solar panels or run solar farms, etc. They buy that excess energy, or put that online as opposed to producing it themselves with a gas powered plant or whatever. Right. Clay Bomb Cardano, yes. The amount of renewable energy curtailed means wasted, by the way, can sometimes be astronomical. Annual solar curtailment across states in the U.S. can range from 1% of total PV power to over 8%. On just one day in 2018, California curtailed 12 gigawatt hours of solar power. Chile, China, Germany, and the United States combined curtailed about 6.5 terawatt hours of solar alone in 2018, which is over 5% of Bitcoin's estimated annual energy use of 120 terawatt hours per year. So, right. In 2021, the Bitcoin mining industry in Texas used around 500 to 1,000 megawatts of power, which averages over the year to a total of between 4.3 to 8.6 terawatt hours. In Texas, annual wind curtailment is around 4%. Annual solar curtailment, again, that's wasting, is 8%, while more solar and wind are rapidly coming online in the state. So I'm just going to sum up because I have to stop reading this. What they're saying is, these, to get to the gist of it, Bitcoin mining can actually use this excess power generated by renewables in a way that generates, money. And can use that wasted energy, and can also shut down immediately when at peak hours. And like I said yesterday, there are already in Georgia and Texas, there are already deals with Bitcoin miners to shut down. They're like, hey, you can't run between this time and this time, or hey, we're having a peak moment, so you guys shut down, and they can just flick a switch and shut it off. All right. So it's an interesting article. It goes, it's very in-depth. Here, I'll put the link in the description box of everywhere if you guys want to read this. If you care. Maybe you care, maybe you don't. I don't know. I thought it was interesting, personally. And interesting, and also... interesting because not a lot of people have this particular viewpoint on cryptocurrency and climate change and how, on some levels. And there are cryptocurrencies out there that are involved in putting forward climate solutions, climate policies, climate friendly actions, right? The whole thing with Ethereum was based on the premise that it was climate friendly. Anyways. Drag Eye talking about the importance of cash. Well, cash is also important too. So I think, I think exactly. So here's another thing. It's not an either or situation. Just because I like cryptocurrency and believe in it doesn't mean I'm like all about cryptocurrency and we should all be. I actually think that there's a place for cash, crypto, and gold and silver or what that diversifying is the name of the game. There's also Chris Martenson talks about having your own self-reliance or having yourself set up where you're growing your own food or being able to exist outside of the grid. That's a form of wealth that is very valuable, right? So that is also a form of wealth that people should be investing in as well. Being able to live with less is a form of wealth. Being able to bring down your monthly overhead or have very minimal overhead at all, that's a huge form of wealth that people don't really talk about too often. All right. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Let's look at this from Poppy Davis. Scientists propose controversial plan to refreeze the North and South poles by spraying sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. I don't know. I think the headline, the jokes write themselves. This is from September 15th. A fleet of 125 military air-to-air refueling tankers would release a cloud of microscopic sulfur dioxide particles at an altitude of 43,000 feet and at a latitude of 60 degrees in both hemispheres, slightly shading the Earth's surface beneath. Obviously, a lot of you, I'm sure most of you know, maybe not all of you know, but there are some very big problems with this plan. And they keep trotting out this, every couple of years. They're like, what we're going to do to control climate change? We're going to do this, send a bunch of planes in the air and spray stuff in the sky. And everybody's like, why would that sound stupid? But apparently they think they're going to refreeze the Arctic. Under the plan, a fleet of, I just read that. Anyways, they'll fly around and put this sulfur dioxide in the air, and it's going to somehow. The particles would slowly drift towards the poles on high altitude winds, slightly shading the Earth's surface beneath. Just over 13 million tons of particles released in the spring and summer would be enough to cool the polar regions by 2°C, with more moderate cooling at mid-latitudes, according to the research published in the scientific journal Environmental Research Communications. What do you guys think about this? A lot of people think this is a bad idea. The plan is controversial, not least because the large number of flights, equivalent to more than 2 days of global air traffic in 2021, would release greenhouse gases into the upper atmosphere where they are more damaging. Other scientists are also cautious about unleashing solar shading because it could have unintended consequences, and that's the thing, such as reducing crop yields. It's those pesky unintended consequences that you got to watch out for. Because these people have all the plans, the really good plans and the smart plans. And we have enough history behind us to see and to know that the people with the really good and the smart plans, they push this stuff out here just all like, yeah, let's just do it. And then 10 or 20 years later, maybe it doesn't even take that long, people are like, oh, that was a dumb idea. That was bad. That was really bad. So this is another case in which people are like, are you sure you want to do that? Because that could be real bad. It will only cost 10 billion pounds a year. All right, that's cheap. Because that's all we care about. Who's going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Sir David King, a former government chief scientist and founder of the Center for Climate Repair at Cambridge University, told Sky News that radical action is needed to save polar ice. We are right there right now, he said. Yeesh. Well, what do you guys think? You think they're going to do this anyways? Are they going to listen to people? Are they going to listen to the scientists? Are they going to take heed? Are they going to heed the warnings? Are they going to ask the citizens of the planet what they want to do? Or are they just going to go do it? Personally, I think they're already doing it. That's my personal opinion. Already being done. Already tested. Already well known. They're already doing it on some levels. But I don't know when they're going to just admit to it. Probably doesn't really matter. All right. The idea is to buy time while we reduce greenhouse gas emissions deeply and rapidly. That's essential. If we keep on emitting at the current rate, we are cooked. Well, how about that for aerosol masking? Do you think they could counteract the effects of the, so let's say, they get rid of a bunch of carbon emissions, right? Reduce the carbon emissions way down. Aerosol masking, right, is unleashed, which raises the temperature, but they go up there and they're spraying the skies with this stuff. They're just replacing the aerosol masking, right? Or could they actually counteract? These are all questions I think that people should have. Or, it's just a thought in my mind. Creative experiments say if they are crazy enough to explode nukes in the atmosphere, they'll test anything. Right. Righto. And that they did. They totally did that. Just to see what would happen. Just like Bill Clinton. Some of these patients were injected with plutonium. This was wrong. Just to see what would happen. They did do that. They exploded things, nuclear bombs, way up in the upper atmosphere, just to see what would happen. Yeah. Whew, boy. Loey Abbott says we're not going to reduce anything. Denver Attaway, by time, they killed us all. They've been doing it for decades. Let's see. Oh, thanks for the link. I appreciate that, Denver. A fate worse than warming, stratospheric aerosol injection, and global catastrophic risk. It's a research paper. I don't have time to read it right now. Or do I? Yeah, maybe we'll bring this back tomorrow. Anyways, that does it for me, guys. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will see you tomorrow at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific. And until next time, peace.